475 horsepower, 1,050 foot-pounds of torque, a 10-speed automatic transmission, massaging, heated and cooled leather seats, a panoramic sunroof, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and more technology, cameras, and sensors than most home security systems. You might think I'm talking about some sort of brand new sports car, maybe some high-end SUV, but in fact, I'm actually talking about the all-new 2020 Ford F-250. Welcome to life in 2020 with a pickup truck. Hello there, my name is Brian Cooper over here at Ken Wilson Ford in Canton, North Carolina, over here in the mountains. And today I'm gonna spend some time to show you what I like and some of the features of the 2020 Ford F-250 Limited. This one here, let's get started. 2020 F-250 Limited. Man, have these trucks come a long way over the last few years. I think what's just super impressive is we're now in a space where you can get 1,000 foot-pounds of torque, or in this case, more than that, in a factory diesel. And this is, of course, a medium-duty truck. We're not even talking a full heavy-duty like 450, 550, or anything larger. Usually that type of, horsepower and torque range was reserved just for, big heavy-duty trucks, big Caterpillar engines, maybe like an International, something like that. But now you're able to get that type of performance, but in something you could drive every day or put to work, obviously. Kind of going around this truck, I'm really liking what's going on with the features on these. I'm still a fan of the new front ends on these trucks, the way they have basically these LEDs that wrap around the outside of the headlights there. In this case, you can see it's kind of broken up. You've got some LEDs right through here and down through here. It's broken up with this little section here, which also does light up. So you can see right there, we've got them and all the headlights are turned on, which you can see are LEDs all the way through. Of course, they're flashing because that's kind of what happens when you record things on a camera. But as we come around here, you've got your fog lights down there as well on the bumper. You've got power folding mirrors. You have, of course, your powered side steps here. This is going to be the average length bed. I think it's like just around 6.5 or 6.75 foot long. Still a decent sized bed. LED taillights, which is of course to be expected. We've got trailer hookups everywhere. You've got your plugs here and here, as well as your lock there for your spare tire. As we open up the bed, of course it's a powered tailgate, power folding there. So if we look here, this is where you're going to have more hookups for different trailer connections, or in this case I believe the cameras. This truck does of course have a spray and bed liner already installed. This is a really nice bed liner as well. You've got your LED lights here and here for your bed lighting. This one also has the box link system. So you can see here and in these corners, you've got your additional locking tie downs. So if you want to strap down like an ATV or a motorcycle, you've got some easier access to that. You of course have more provisions. I think these are the standard provisions here inside the bed, but you've got your different provisions there for additional hookups. You can see them in kind of that back left corner, as well as right up here in the front. That's kind of your standard hookups. The box link system gives you these extra hookups here. So as we kind of make our way around the truck again for our second pass, of course this truck specifically does have the additional trailer package. I think they call it the high cap trailer tow package. That basically gives you the most towing performance you can get with this truck as far as the total weight. Coming around here, this is an FX4 truck also. So that's going to have your additional kind of off-road settings. It's going to have some different features, things like that. Just a really super nice looking truck on the outside here. All right, now that you've seen the outside and underneath of this truck, I say let's go ahead and head to what I think is the best part about this truck, and that is the interior of these. Now, what's really neat with these newer model F-250s and 350s is we are now starting to share a lot of the same kind of features and options as far as what you could get with a 150, because they now share pretty much the same cabin. So that means it's a lot easier to kind of share different features and options and trims and packages, things like that. So let's just kind of show off some of the stuff. Now, with this being a limited, we're going to have a ton of tech, a ton of safety, a ton of just kind of really nice features inside this thing. All right, inside the 2020 F-250 Limited. We'll start right here with just kind of the interior stuff. Now, this truck does have the two-tone black and tan interior. Thankfully, it's not a ton of tan. I'm glad that they just kind of kept it to a couple surfaces here and not like tan carpet and everything there. I think in a truck, you need to have as much black as possible. I do think this looks good. I like having a two-tone, especially on a, you know, kind of a gray truck like this. It gives a little bit of color. All these 250s now and the 150s as well, any of the special packages will end up having this kind of fake wood inlay going on here, and they kind of carry that through on the dashboard, where you get a little bit of that over there. You get that on all four doors. Of course, one big thing about the Limiteds is the fact that they kind of have like a tracked VIN number, which they make a big deal about that here on the center console. That's been a limited thing for pretty much years now on all the 150s, 250s, 350s, that nature. You can see this one is number 192, and it even has the year and the VIN and everything stamped on there. So that's obviously a one-off thing. That's just kind of neat. It's just a feature with these trucks. I like the use of the kind of pewter and chrome trim around. It's not like an overabundance of chrome, but I think they put the chrome right where it needs to be. You can see it here. You kind of have this black and chrome inlay here on the vents. I like that, especially with this kind of, you know, I mean, it's fake wood, but it's kind of like this weird wood, like almost aluminum kind of look to it. That's really nice. They've got the chrome trim on the bezels there on the gauge cluster. You got that same kind of pattern here as before here, but on the steering wheel now. That's carried through here on the center console. It's just very slight, and I like that. It's just very clean looking. Any of these center console trucks have tons of storage, both from these side pockets to, of course, your main pockets here. And then as we open up the large front pocket, normally you would have a little bit of a deeper pocket on some trucks. This one's a little bit shallower, but that is because you actually have your wireless charging pad here, as well as your USB-C and your USB-A charging ports. So you have three options, at least right there, for how you want to charge a device. And then, of course, as we open up the center console, you've got, as always, a massive center console, more power hookups there. You can see there's, I believe, just an auxiliary. I don't think it's got USB. Yeah, just your regular auxiliary. Of course, you've got your removable tray, your storage, your organizer, coin organizer, all that stuff. Nice, huge pocket. Really finely stitched leather is kind of everywhere that you'd want to touch. So you've got it here on the steering wheel, of course. You've got it here on the center console. Of course, you've got your seats, and your door cards have the leather. Just super nice on the inside. I'm always a huge fan of these panoramic sunroofs. I'm glad that's becoming much more of a normal thing. You know, the old panoramic sunroofs were more of a split sunroof, so you had this massive chunk of metal and you had like two sunroofs. This one's nice because you can actually open this all the way back. It'll basically open up to about right here like a regular sunroof, or it can just kind of tilt open if you want to go for that look as well. It does have a power shade, so if you want to, you can, you know, open and close that shade right there. I like it open. It gives a little bit better lighting. But as we come back around, of course, this is where we're going to start to have a lot of technology going in here. So as we kind of look, let's go. So as we look right now, the truck is completely off. You can see there's no screens on. Everything is black. And it really points out how much tech or how much screens are on this thing when we come up here to actually turn the truck on. So what's nice is with these diesel trucks, they now have a much quicker start than other ones. They still have glow plugs, but they figured out a way to kind of keep heat in the plugs a little bit longer. Now, I did have this truck running earlier, but you can see just the amount of stuff that you've got here on the gauge cluster. And as we kind of cycle through some of this, let's get that little message off. You've got all kinds of different gauges that you can have here. So right now we've got kind of the off-road stuff, so like your pitch and your yaw. It'll also show you what drive mode that we're in. So you can see here, right now it's in 2 high. We can switch it to 4x4, and this is kind of an electronic shift. You can see the screen shifts there. And then now we've got our 4 low. It says shift to neutral to get that access. So we'll just put it back in 2-wheel. That's what most people are gonna live in most of the time. You can see this truck has exactly 9 miles on it, so obviously pretty nice there. Now, if you look here along the top, you're gonna have these different tabs, and on the steering wheel controls on the left is where you're gonna find how you navigate through those. So as we just kind of cursor left and cursor right, we can go through and go to different towing settings. We've got different gauges you can have. Of course, you've got your digital speedometer, maintenance monitor. You can go through stuff like that. Of course, all your different trip settings, different stuff that you can customize in what they call the My View. It's kind of like a separate menu of things you could add to that. So if you want to make a combination of things that are on these tabs, you can add those there. Of course, you've got your other settings here, and this is where we're going to find a lot of the different safety stuff, right? So we've got our lane keep assist, cruise controls, where we're going to go in, and you've got right now it just defaults to adaptive, which again, those are also controlled here on the steering wheel. That would be on the left side of the steering wheel, where you turn it on and off and adjust your distance and, you know, accelerate and decelerate, things like that. That's pretty normal for cruise control, minus the fact this has the adaptive, which I think is awesome. And I always say this, but anybody that has never used adaptive cruise control, you are really missing out. So if you're looking to buy anything new, or maybe just a couple years old, try to see if you can find it with that. I think it's just the right way to go. So if we kind of go through these settings more, let's see here. Yeah, there we go. So you've got your bliss, your blind spot, informational system. You've got cross traffic alert. That's where it's looking at, you know, if you're backing out of a parking spot or pulling forward, stuff that's picking it from the side sensors on the front and rear. Driver alert, that's if it's kind of detecting if you're, you know, driving a little bit tired and you're kind of weaving all over the road. You of course have your rear parking aid, that's your sensors. Pre-collision assist, that's where it's going to detect that you might be about to rear end somebody or somebody's pulling out, and if it doesn't, if you don't react in time, it's going to apply the brakes and kind of do the stopping for you. So that's just a nice safety feature. And again, we're getting these safety features and 10-speed, you know, automatic transmissions and stuff like that on a 10,000 pound gross vehicle weight truck. Like, I mean, you just don't normally get this kind of stuff, except for the last few years. We finally are now getting some of these features in some of these, you know, now work trucks and things like that. So you've got lots of stuff that's available there. So we'll jump out of that and we'll kind of go back into here. So you can do all that stuff there. If we kind of move over here to the center stack, actually we'll continue over here to the left siding steering wheel because you have plenty of buttons here. We'll go ahead and cut the engine off so we're not just wasting fuel. All right, so we've got the truck on, we just don't have the engine running. So if we look over here on your window switch controls, you also have your settings for your mirrors. You've got some settings there and some settings here. These are lights that kind of shine at the edges of the mirrors that you can turn on or off. You can kind of see the on lights, so you can turn those on, which is nice. And then they are power folding. So we can press the buttons here. Let me widen this out a little bit. So as we press these buttons here, you can see that one touch does the power folding for both. That's kind of nice if you're just driving around. I mean, power folding mirrors is not brand new, but it's just kind of a nice tech thing. Also up underneath the steering wheel here, you have not only your steering wheel adjustment, so if you want to raise it, lower it, your tilt and telescoping, all that stuff is done there. But you can also adjust the pedals. So if you like to sit a certain kind of way, you can adjust your pedals. You can see they're manually adjusting there for in and out. And then of course you have your power folding tailgate hitch, which is right there inside as well. You've got all your seat settings and your lock and unlock. That's pretty typical. And now we can come back over here to the center stack where we've got, and again, I like what Ford's doing with the screen integration. There's a lot of companies, like I do like a Tesla, but everything, absolutely everything has to be accessed through the touchscreen, to include opening the glove box if you're in a Tesla Model 3. Ford strikes that really good balance where you've got a nice screen with all the kind of features you want to have on there, like Apple CarPlay and things like that. But all of your main controls are done from your dashboard. So you don't have to be, you know, glitching around on this screen here trying to figure out where you're trying to be in a menu and things like that. So you just basically have all your climate controls down here. And again, this is pretty typical for most of your 150s through, you know, even the 550s now. But of course, this truck is going to have your heated and cooled seats done here. I always love the cooled seats. All of your climate control stuff there. You've got your trailer stuff, so you've got your brake assist. which you can hear it saying we don't have a trailer. That's what that ding was. And you've got the trailer, the Pro trailer backup. So that's what's nice is once you've got a trailer programmed and you've got all the different little stickers and stuff put on, you can engage a trailer backup mode where once you basically turn this on, which again, it's gonna ask us here, like add trailer, you can see that on there. So once we turn that on and we've got the trailer on it, you know, we can basically use this to steer the direction of the trailer rather than using the steering wheel. So you can be hands off the steering wheel and basically steer here and be watching the cameras, which I'll show you here in a second. And you know, basically control that without actually having to do that kind of reverse backing thing, which is good for people that don't drive trailers all the time, or maybe for, you know, an older generation that's maybe lost a little bit of that kind of finesse for driving things like that. So as we go through the screens, we do have pretty typical stuff here. You've got all your audio controls as normal there. Navigation's in here, of course. You've got more climate control stuff you can work out here to include, where is it? I guess it's going to be in this other one. So you've got, of course, your normal Bluetooth phone settings. There, of course, is navigation. That's to be expected at this point. You've got apps you can download with the Ford Pass and the Ford Sync stuff. So you can add apps to this as you kind of hook up your phone and pair things with it. And then, of course, you've got additional settings. So as we go in here, the main ones to kind of point out are the fact that you do have some vehicle settings. This is where you can go in and change some things like ambient lighting, which is a thing. You can make it brighter or darker. You can change your door keypad code. That's a nice thing that Ford's been doing for a long time. If you want to actually lock the truck with your keys inside, and then you can do some different things with camera settings, things like that. That's one thing I did want to point out. You still have your valet mode, which is something that Ford's including now with a lot of these higher end trucks. But of course, the best thing is what I mentioned earlier is you, like in the Explorer, and a lot of the other high-end Fords now, you have massaging seats. So not only can you just adjust the lumbar and the bolstering and the seat bottoms and things like that, but if we go into the massage settings here, and you've got this for the driver and the passenger, so it's literally the same system as what's in the Explorer, but now you can put, you know, and this is massaging on the back and also the bottom or the seat cushion area, and you can adjust that. And it's nice because it gives me like this kind of rolling thing going back and forth between my rear end and my back. So that's just something that's really nice. You know, these are things that were generally not installed in trucks, much less a 250, maybe a 150 or something. But it's nice that you've got this stuff now available in a truck they can do serious work with. So again, I missed earlier, we have more power hookups here on the dashboard, and including the ones here. This is pretty typical now for all these trucks, which is why I think I missed it. You've got your 110 plug as well as another accessory, and then you're going to have more of that in the back. So that's kind of your main overview. You do have your controls up top here for your sunroof. You've got the, and I'll kind of show you here in the mirror, you've got your button here for the power rear window, which you can kind of see there. And it is, of course, has the defrost on it. You've got all your different auxiliary switches. So if you've got things that you would normally like to have hooked up, like lights or any kind of outside things, you can plug all those in here, which is nice to give you provisions for it. You've got your sunroof control, so if you want to open and close the shade, you do that there. If you want to manually turn your lights on, of course, normal stuff there. And then, of course, your sunroof options if you want to tilt it, open it, close it, things like that. And if, well, I'll just go ahead and open it, show you kind of, that's a huge piece of glass moving. And as you see, it opens to almost all the way back there. So you've got just about the same width here, or length here, what a depth, whatever you want to call this, of a traditional sunroof, but of course it's much wider now. This is a pretty nice feature in the last few years of the 250s, and they've started to put those in the Explorers and the Edges and everything there. I'm a huge fan of that. It's just, I like having some extra ambient lighting. It's tinted. If it gets too bright, you can always close it. So let's kind of jump in the back and I'll show you some stuff there. All right, back of the 250. So this truck is a little bit of a mess right now just because it's brand new off the carrier. So some of this stuff, like you can see, we've got the carpeted floor mats. These are the rubber weather floor mats in plastic here. These are the connections and control boxes. You can see that round plug there. This is what would hook up to the rear for your trailer backup, and I believe your camera stuff. That's all accessed here. So you would get this installed once you are getting the trailer set up. So that all goes with that. Now, of course, you do have these really cool storage boxes which are underneath of here. This is kind of a thing now for all these different trucks, and you can even fold this storage down. So if you want to have kind of that flat floor and retain that feature of a lot of the 150s, you still have that access. And I don't know if you caught that, but you just basically have this little handle right here that you just kind of fold down, and then, you know, this thing will go down. I think you have to put that other one down, but you still get the idea there. And you can actually lock this as well. So if you want to lock these things in place, that's what that is. Of course, you've got all your jacks. You've got looks like possibly your battery, or maybe just as power inverter. So I guess that's for the 110 plugs and everything there. I guess that would be, yeah, I guess that would be what this is here. All right, so you've also got heated seats back here in the rear, which is, I think, is a nice feature now for your rear passengers. More plugs to include USB-A and C, as well as your 110. And of course, another just traditional bullet style 12 volt. So like an abundance of power back here. And of course, you can fold these down. They easily move up and down, which I think is nice. No crazy handles or anything like that. And you have the same level of quality on the leather and the stitching and the softness back here as you do up front. The same design here with the door cards, the same leather wrap, same leather stitching. You know, they didn't cheap out on anything back here. You just have tons of room. You can kind of see here just how much light and how nice it feels when you're back here. Even as a rear passenger, you might even have potentially maybe even more room back here as a rear passenger than even in the front, depending on how you look at that. So just really nice back here. I like all the different features. There is, again, your rear window. Now, one thing that I failed to point out when I was doing the walk around outside the truck is just how many cameras are on this thing. So let's see if we can count. So part of the 360 camera system has cameras under the mirrors. So you can see we've got those there. So you've got one on each side. As we come around the front, we've got, where is it? We've got a camera here underneath of the Ford emblem. That's going to be also part of your front facing and your 360. As we come around again, we're going to have another camera underneath the mirror. So that's camera number 3. And as we come back around here, oh, we missed one. So we've got this third brake light camera, which I'll point that out to you here in a second. That corresponds to what you want to use here in the bed. Kind of like a bed camera, but then also helps you out with trailer stuff. I'll point that out here in a second. So we come around here, so that's camera number 4, we said. And then we've got another one here, so that's camera number 5. So that one's gonna be like your normal backup camera, but of course, it's nice because if you've got these two things going on, you know, you can have your tailgate down and still have a rear view camera up top there. So that is what, 5 cameras, something crazy like that. 4 cameras, 5 cameras. So they're all over. You've got your parking sensors on the bumpers there. I mean, it's everywhere. You've got more sensors that they actually put in the taillights. That's what the blind spot radar is about. So they have those as well. They've kind of integrated those into there. So where those cameras are important is as we come back up here into the front, again, got our screen on. So up here on the top, we can access those cameras from here. So you push that one touch camera button and you can now cycle through, and so you can see it defaults to having this kind of front camera and then the 360 here, which is kind of fun because you can even see it shows like the door open on this side. So I bet if we close that, it'll, yeah, look at that. Isn't that weird? It'll like change kind of how the camera adds in. So now we've got the door closed, but you can go through and cycle through your different cameras. So you can see right now it defaults to 360 view. If you just want to have it for just your front camera, you can. If you want to have it for your split view for the front camera, you can do that also. And then you've got your, now, so this is the high mounted camera and the third brake light. You can see they've got the dotted line, just basically are for centering where your trailer would be. And what's kind of cool from this camera is I'll go ahead and push the little button here for the power tailgate, and you get kind of an interesting view of that going down. So that's where you can see it's just really handy to have that line. And as we go back into the cameras here, we've also got, I believe, what is this? Oh, that's for your trailer camera. It's just not hooked up right now, or any other additional camera for that matter. But yeah, you can see it's for a camera plus, so like adding a camera. Obviously, we don't have a trailer or anything programmed on this. So that's really cool, just easy access to that. And also some of these other buttons, this is how you can easily turn off your lane keep assist. So if you like the idea, that's really handy with the cruise control, because you can basically very lightly hold on to the steering wheel and adjust your speed, your acceleration, your deceleration, while it also centers you. I guess they call it lane centering, is I guess what they call it. Lane keep assist, lane centering, it's really all the same. So you can turn that on or off from here. You can see it affects it here on the screen. So it defaults to being on, but you can easily turn that off. You've got your descent assist. So it'll basically kind of control your speed while you go down hills, which is nice. Of course, hazards, traction control, that's normal. And then a newer feature for a lot of these trucks is the exhaust brake, or the engine brake. So what that does is, that's really handy if you've got a trailer. It's much like a Jake brake on a much bigger truck, where it uses, it restricts the exhaust gas coming out and basically puts some back pressure on it, so that as you're coming down a hill, that back pressure will kind of restrict the engine's RPMs from rising, and then that kind of translates to the drivetrain. So it kind of slows down the drivetrain so that it can kind of keep its speed going downhill. And the main feature of that is that you don't have to use the brakes as often when you're going downhill. It just kind of does all the adjustment for you, which is, again, just a really nice feature to have, especially, again, in a 250 truck that could be driven for, personal reasons or for work and for towing, things like that. And I think that would pretty much do it for the insides. I mean, honestly, the inside of this truck is just where you want to be. There's just so many features. You've, of course, got, all the top end Fords have the Bang & Olufsen stereos. You can easily tell that right here on the dashboard. That means you've got speakers all over this thing. A lot of people will ask because this is something that's different from some of the older trucks, especially, is what these are. Everything up here, this is all of your sensors and your driver stuff for all the different, like the blind spot monitoring, the lane keep assist. A lot of that is also housed up in here, because I believe there's some additional cameras that are back here that are forward facing. So you've got that also. So yeah, a lot going on. All right, we've shown you the outside, we've shown you the underside, we've shown you the inside, and then I even showed you the outside again because I forgot to point out all those different cameras. So now I think the best thing we can do is actually drive this truck and get an indication of how the, kind of update on the 6.7 actually drives, as well as 2020 is the first year that they are now putting the 10-speed automatic, which has been a widely popular transmission for the 150s, and now they've got that available now for the 250s and 350s. Awesome. You even can get it with the gas engine, which, by the way, is a 7.3. So that's new. It's a 7.3 gas engine that's back now. We've got a few here on the lot. I just don't have time to show that in this video. But yeah, let's drive this thing, actually see what it does. All right, before we actually hit the highway, let's go ahead and go through a startup procedure, which I think we've already seen a little bit of, but we'll just go ahead. Of course, it's keyless, so we've got our engine start button here. I've got my foot on the brake. Let's get that off, because I guess I turned my trailer back up on earlier. So accessories are on, got it. So let's go ahead and turn this thing on. Automatic engine braking on, very nice. You can turn that off if we want to. Nice. Let's go ahead and go to, here we go. Let's change that view here. Yeah. All right, so what I want to really show off here is the 10-speed auto. And this is just something I want to point out before I actually, turn the camera around and get a sense of kind of how it goes. So as we put it in drive, a feature that you'll notice is there's a tiny little screen over here on the left of the gauge cluster that actually points out the fact it's a 10-speed, and it's a digital display. So as you can see right now, we are currently in first gear. All right, so what I want to do is I want to just point out how smooth the shifts are on this truck. So right now we're in second gear. I'm gonna kind of come to a stop here and let it go back into first. All right, so we're back in first. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit of acceleration here, and I wanna just kind of point out, just listen very closely to how quiet the shifts are, watch for how smooth the shifts are, and also just, yeah, I'm gonna probably floor it a little bit, so let's just kind of check out the acceleration all at the same time. So let's go. Yeah, I don't know about you, but I could not hear or feel any shifting. And that's what I think is just so impressive with these trucks nowadays, is they've got these 10-speed autos now in these trucks, and they are just so smooth. And of course, if you were to put it, you know, like a manual mode and shift with the shifter here, the column shifter, you could do that also. But man, it's just super smooth. So as we kind of just pull out of here, we'll kind of, you know, we'll drive a little bit more normally this time, and you can kind of see those gears shifting again. So look at that, we're already in 5th gear and we're doing like almost 30 miles an hour. That's how they can get such fuel economy out of these trucks now. 6th gear, as we kind of slow back down. Look, we jumped into 7th for a second. Let's jump it back down a couple gears. And we're back to kind of the 2nd and 3rd gear where it likes when we're just kind of crawling around. So yeah, that's just probably my favorite, you know, thing with these trucks, is that 10-speed auto is no joke. I highly suggest that if you're looking at getting into, you know, a 250, or even if you're just kind of curious to upgrade, I would just recommend stopping by any Ford dealer, especially if you're Western North Carolina. Come by Ken Wilson here and check out these new 250s with this 10-speed. You'll love it. All right, now let's go ahead and get this thing out on the road and put some miles on it. Reverse out of where we're parked. I love the 360 camera, the backup camera. I think Ford's been kind of ahead of the game, at least in the backup camera, as far as just the overall image quality of that. They're a little bit later to the game. I guess I'd say they're early to the game on the 360 camera on the medium duty trucks. But obviously Ford's not the first to do a 360 camera, but they definitely do the 360 camera well. The image quality is really good, as well as just the actual realities of where things are on the truck work out well. Now this will actually be my first time driving this 2020 off the property. So what I'd actually like to do is I'm going to take it up on the interstate and kind of see how it drives there. Now right out of the gate, I'm actually really comfortable inside the interior, as far as just how I'm sitting, but then as far as like how the truck actually is. I don't know the overall dimensions on this truck offhand, but it's a pretty big truck, as you can imagine. It's fairly long, and that's just to be expected. But what I like is it doesn't feel overly huge, so that can be a little weird. You've got to really kind of caution yourself so you don't, you know, clip anything or hit anybody or have anything weird like that. But what I do like is that it just feels very manageable. Of course, driving and seating position are going to be great. You're sitting up tall. It's very quiet in here. You can hear things, but it's not like some crazy loud diesel truck that's just, you know, banging your head around with the exhaust noise. The mirrors, I have great visibility there. Of course, you've got your split mirror, so you've got a lower angle and your traditional angle. Now let's accelerate here. Good God. Golly. There's 60. Jeez. So it's currently in 2-wheel drive mode, and twice there was a little bit of wheel spin. You can actually see the traction control blinking on the dashboard, and I could kind of feel it as well in the pedal. It was cutting power a little bit. But this truck is absolutely no slouch. I really, really, really enjoy how much power you actually get in these trucks. And it's not like a violent, in-your-face kind of power delivery. It's honestly really smooth. The 10-speed automatic transmission, which we're already in 10th gear at this point, on the highway doing about 65, it is just so smooth. And I think that's probably one of my favorite features of all of the trucks now, the 150s, the 250s, the 350s. They just have that 10-speed transmission now, and it just, again, you just need to drive it. That's really all I can say. It's just super smooth, super easy, fast. I mean, it's nice. Right now, I can already tell we've got the lane keep system going. So if I kind of veer to the right a little bit here, let's see if I can make it happen. Yeah, let's bring it to the right of the lane here. So the steering wheel starts to vibrate. It's weird. It's kind of the same sensation you get from being on the rumble strips. I wonder if it'll happen on this one here. So yeah, that's the weirdest thing.
I'm not going to pretend to be a huge fan of the lane keep assist. I think it's a good safety feature, but me personally, I think it's kind of annoying. Now, paired with the adaptive cruise control, I think it's really neat. I think that's the proper way to use it, is when you've got the cruise control system going, because that way it can kind of do all the, kind of like an autopilot in some ways, where it can control where you are in the lane and as far as regarding you to traffic. So, I mean, in that setting, I like it, but just driving around, I don't really care for it. So what's nice, though, is I can just easily turn it off right there on the dashboard. So if I'm not a big fan of that, just hit the button and it goes away. I'm now off the highway and I'm on some of the kind of back roads here of Canton, making my way back in. Again, this is just a really nice truck to drive. Like, before I worked over here at the Ford dealer, I never fully understood why there's such a desire for people to drive much larger 150s now than we've ever had in the past, as well as a lot of people that just drive 250s and 350s without the need for the towing capacity or the heavy duty capabilities, any of that. They just drive them around for daily drivers. A lot of people obviously modify them and do performance things with them. I never fully got it, but now that I spent some time driving some of these trucks and selling some of the trade-in vehicles that we have, and now of course I'm in this brand new 2020, which is the first time I've had the 10-speed paired with a diesel. I can kind of get it. Like, they're actually really easy to drive. I wouldn't pretend that they're easy to park. You still have to deal with that aspect of pickup truck ownership, which is just the fun of parking something this big. You're not parallel parking downtown, let's just say that. But with how smooth this thing is, the steering doesn't feel heavy at all. If anything, it's kind of like right there in the middle. It's not super light, like you're not getting any feedback. Like, you can turn the wheel and you can feel things happening, but it's not over boosted. It's not over assisted to the point where it just feels like you're disconnected from the truck. But it's not at all heavy. Like, there's no weight to it. You don't physically feel like you're having to put an effort in to drive this thing. Even in kind of like a tight parking lot situation, this thing is really, you know, easy to drive and move around. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel boaty. Really nice. So yeah, now that I've spent some time with these trucks, I kind of get why people like them so much. I'm starting to become a huge fan myself, to the point where I used to be like, well, I don't need a truck. I don't have to haul anything. I don't ever have a trailer or anything I need to tow, so I've just said, why do I need that? But now I kind of understand why people have these for a daily driver. It's kind of something I would consider for myself, especially since the old days of the 7.3's fuel economy, which the 7.3 Power Stroke is a great engine, don't get me wrong, but it was not known for fuel economy. It was known for everything else except for being good on fuel. So they've kind of addressed that issue with the 6.7. You have gobs more power and a ridiculous amount of torque now than you ever used to have with the old engine. So this is just a really smooth truck. But obviously, the Limited's going to give you all of the crazy special features. You know, I'm always going to be a fan of the split moonroof here. So you've got a lot of things going for you there. This truck may not be for everybody. Some people would rather just have like an XL or an XLT, maybe a Lariat with maybe less features, less tech, maybe a different screen, maybe even the bench seats instead of the console. But for somebody that's doing a lot of towing, let's just say like with an RV or even just any kind of cross-country driving, this is a really nice truck and I would highly consider it. So I definitely recommend this. So thank you so much. I know this is a longer video. Most of these with all these features are going to be longer, but if you made it all the way to the end, thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something from it. I know there's things that I'm sure that I missed. You know, this truck has some drive mode features, so you can kind of navigate through sand and snow. I didn't really point that out, but it's here. It's done on the shift column. I didn't pull out the step on the rear bed. Those are things that I've done with other videos. The rear step is not new. The drive modes are not specifically new. They might be new for the 2020. But there's always going to be things that I've missed. So I'm hoping that I pointed out something that you didn't know. But of course, if anybody has any questions on this truck or about any other vehicles that we've got on the lot, or if anybody has any recommendations for what they'd want me to review next, I don't even mind doing like a pre-owned vehicle. If you want to kind of hear my thoughts and my take and a walk around of like a 2016 Explorer, 2017 Explorer, things like that, I'd be more than happy to kind of do that over time. So again, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I really enjoy kind of making these videos. It's a way for me to kind of learn about these while I'm kind of explaining them to you. So I hope that you're liking it. Thank you so much, and have a great day.